Warbin Jaegerman Jensen?
You got it.
I did.
You did it.
They didn't hear the other
Except
time.
it's Smitty.
Damn it.
Well, you said it because you're spitty.
Because I'm spitty.
Yeah.
But because that's always what makes me think of it, is I'm spitty.
Maybe you're good. Maybe you're good maybe you're good when you're on the spot because you screwed it up so many times before.
So many, like 2?
So many times in the past.
Oh, yeah. That's
like
true.
every time you say it, you're like, Spiggy Morgan's Lagenflan Jensen? No, that's not it. You know that's not it. What are you saying? Is that not it?
I'm just hopeful. Did I get it?
It's kind of like that episode where SpongeBob's not really getting the crash singing, the
hash slinging.
No, that's what it actually is.
Is it? Fuck. I'm just such a screw up.
Okay.
Smitty Warbin Jaegerman Jensen.
Smitty Warbin Jaegerman Jensen.
That's what I said, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I was scratching my face so I couldn't really hear.
You can't hear and scratch at the same time?
You know when you're like touching your face or something and you can't hear things?
Totally.
Shut up.
So we got some.
Welcome to Flappity Flap Podcast.
Yeah, I forgot because we did a take and then we deleted it. Hello and welcome to Flappity Flap Podcast with Brandon and Sarah, the best hosts of all time. Yeah.
Quite
I challenge you to challenge us.
Oh, please don't.
No, I don't really. So we're kind of dabbling in like some serious, stuff a little bit, because we are interested in it, but it also sometimes is not like funny or, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I saw something in the news, and it was something that piqued my interest, and Brandon and I are interested in, kind of miscarriages of justice, I think you would say. People being wrongfully imprisoned, wrongfully accused, just kind of the underdog, I think so many of us are interested in that. And this is a case about a gentleman, what you may have seen, named Herbert Alford, who was convicted of second-degree murder in Michigan and has recently been released.
What year was he convicted?
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay. So I'm not allowed to ask questions.
I was just giving broad. Oh no, strokes. You can't ask questions. Okay, I'll tell you, Brandon.
Well, I'm glad we're going through all of this for me to get the date.
Oh, you're such a putz. He was convicted in 2016 of second-degree murder of Michael Adams, who was 23, in Lansing, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Michigan. Mr. Adams was fatally shot on October 18th, 2011. So this was like 10 or 9.5 years ago. In a drug-related dispute, according to the prosecutor's office. Mr. Alford, Herbert Alford, has always insisted that he was innocent and that a car rental receipt from the Hertz Corporation would exonerate him.
And that's Hertz, like the yellow logo. They also rent like other stuff too, right? I think they also rent like tractors and other junk.
It's funny that you remember because I don't.
Yeah, underlined with a yellow line at least.
They recently changed their logo or their. I wonder if it has anything to do with this. Like
you could type in Michigan.
A little bit of
behind
rebranding.
Hertz.
Right here.
Yeah, after Hertz, type in Michigan.
Michigan.
Uh-huh. Oh, maybe image search.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's the same. It's the same company. So they rent out all kinds of stuff. I think at least locally they do. In California, they rent all kinds of junk. I think.
Like you said, tractors and stuff. I think
they rent out like tools and cars and all kinds.
I
of
totally
junk.
just thought they were like a rental car company.
Not really important to the story, but I just thought it would.
I appreciate your input. I don't know. I think any kind of more background information just fills out the picture, So Mr. Alford spent almost 5 years in jail. I think I figured out it was like 4.65 years because it was like 1,700 days.
It's a long time.
Yeah, in jail kind of awaiting trial, and then after his conviction in actual prison, before Hertz finally came up with this receipt, showing that he was. It says in some of the articles that he was nowhere near the scene of the killing, but he was like 20 minutes away at the airport. But I don't want to call it research. I mean, I did a bunch of reading on, various articles and kind of putting together
Some digging.
Some digging, but and then as I was like sitting down to say, okay, let's talk about this, I did a slightly differently worded search and saw some other information that I hadn't seen, but I'll kind of go into that a little bit in a minute.
The plot thickened.
Yeah. So, October 18th, 2011, this Michael Adams was shot, and I think 3 days after he was killed, the police issued a warrant and charged Mr. Alford with second-degree murder. Actually, I don't know if it was 3 days after the actual killing. I'm a little bit confused on the timeline.
Can I ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Based on what?
Well, that's part of the background that I will be getting to. But
okay.
There were supposed, eyewitness accounts, but
was he in a lineup?
I don't know if he was ever in a lineup, but there were people who said, so I believe that there was someone named, let's see, what was this guy's name? Pentecost.
Pentecost.
Willeen? Oh no, I think she's I thought that was a man, but I believe it's a woman. Willeen Pentecost, who I think he was a roommate of her, and her.
Willeen?
Yeah, Willine, Pentecost.
Is there a picture of her?
No, I didn't bother looking that up. But did you want to make sure she was a woman or?
Just asking.
Oh. So I think.
I mean,
it was just your face.
That way you can know. That way
yeah.
you can know what pronoun to use for the person.
So at first I thought
Willeen.
It makes sense, but I think initially my brain, because the font was kind of small,
how is it
saw
spelled?
Willie. But then as I'm looking at it now, it says Willie, and I did hear someone refer to her as a her.
Oh, okay.
Willine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the license plate from her vehicle was spotted at the scene, and the thing is, I think because they were roommates, I think Mr. Alford would drive her Dodge Durango. It's 2002 green Dodge Durango. Would drive her vehicle enough times, and a few or several people said later, one of the people after they saw him on TV said, "Oh, that was him," but they didn't kind of say it was him until they saw that he was wanted on television or that he had been charged. So it was a little bit, and these are
a
people,
witch hunt, sort of.
Not a witch hunt, but I think a lot of times, and I kind of learned this from the Serial podcast about, I was just talking about that because cell phone records came up, and it was a similar weird thing with cell phone records. Why didn't they play a bigger role? And so the case of Adnan Syed, I think, in maybe other cases where it's not the police's job to or they don't see it as their job to really find out the truth and exhaustively figure out who it is. It's they build a case against someone. So they kind of look at someone who they like for the crime, I think. And I don't know if that's changing. And they kind of build the case against them. And the prosecution, who is the lawyers, kind of takes that further. But it's I think the podcast Serial, I think they interviewed, some police detectives, or one in particular who said, there's this misconception, I think, that we're really just trying to find the truth. And it's more about, the reality is it's more about finding someone and then building evidence that person did it, which seems really wrong. Like who
Yes.
who then is actually trying to find the truth?
Seems wrong. I think that is wrong. You should
Seems
be
wrong. Yeah.
you should be finding the truth if you can.
Find the actual person who did it.
Yeah, not just finding a fall guy for it.
Yeah.
You're the most likely culprit. Mm-hmm. And the person's like, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Just because I was close to this crime scene or, that's...
Well, I think with this guy, there were people who said they saw him. He had long braids. Someone said he identified him by his braids. It was a drug deal kind of gone wrong or gone sour. And, the guy who was the victim, I think, was running away. And other people claim they saw this Mr. Alford shoot him in the back.
Was Mr. Alford even into drugs?
He definitely seems to be in the periphery or perimeter of these other people who are into drugs. But the fact that you have witnesses saying they were freebasing crack or... I mean, I'm so
gross.
I'm so not woke about or, in the know about drugs.
I think you can say they're doing crack.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then they are being kind of relied on to help build the case against this guy, is just seems problematic, at the least. So this Mr. Alford, claims, that he was 20 minutes away at the airport renting a car from the Hertz Corporation. And it was several years of trying with his attorneys to get a receipt that would be time-stamped to show that he could not have been where the police claim he was, or witnesses claim he was at the time to do the crime.
Yeah.
So...
not the right time, you didn't do the crime.
Exactly. So he is a black man, and, so there was some, I think his feeling and his attorney's feeling was that the legal request, subpoenas for the receipt and any records relating to the transaction that would corroborate his story was just sort of dismissed because they just, his kind of take on it was, I was a black man being accused of a crime. They figured I was just going to get convicted. They didn't place any importance on it.
That's such bullshit.
You can't kind of argue with that, especially since they ultimately found the document.
Yeah.
And
they found it years later, so they couldn't have dug it up, when it was all happening.
Right.
Good Lord.
And they so I'll kind of try to take you through the timeline. There's just a lot of information here. But the police basically, they said they largely suspected him based on the testimony of an informant, Jesse Bridges, who later recanted his testimony saying that the police offered him $1,500 to implicate Mr. Alford.
What?
But the authorities, of course, have denied it. And if the informant is in the drug scene, it's just credibility is an issue. But the fact that it came up and that I think multiple people were kind of in that scene and maybe having plea deals or getting something in exchange is just highly questionable.
Man.
So it happened in 2011. I think the police were having a hard time maybe building the case against Mr. Alford. And it says it wasn't until 2015 that the case sort of became active again when this man, the informant, Gilbert Bailey, was arrested in a drug trafficking case, and he agreed to testify against Alford in exchange for lesser charges. That can never be how can that... I'm kind of I wonder if that happens in other countries where you get a lesser... sentence or lesser charges because you help. How is that not
because you pointed the finger at someone else?
Yeah, I just have to wonder in countries like European countries that are considered very progressive, Denmark or the Netherlands or even Germany or I don't know, if they allow that, Anyway, so all this time,
we would have to do more research.
It would be interesting to maybe just compare here are things that you can do in the States, and here are things you absolutely cannot do, and just see, because that just seems like, how can you not have a conflict of interest?
Yeah.
So all this time, his attorneys are trying to get a hold of this receipt. They're issuing subpoenas. Then they're having, I guess maybe in criminal, or depending on the state, they're called hearings to show cause, which is basically like showing why you haven't been able to obtain evidence, that you claim you need. Like in civil, which I work in, you would do a motion to compel. So you issue a subpoena, you have multiple follow-ups, and you do like formal correspondence, and you, even if you have a process server, they do like a declaration saying we've tried this many things, the company's not, the company or the individual isn't appearing or whatever, or producing documents, and then you do a motion to compel and you get an order from the court. So they had these hearings to show cause, and the judge would issue like orders, like you need to comply. And the Hertz Corporation was supposed to show up at these hearings as well, and they just wouldn't show up. So they were just non-compliant in every sense.
So shitty.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I mean,
right.
I wish I could add more to that, but like, what is there?
Yeah,
what is there to say?
I think with regard to Hertz, I mean, I still have some questions about whether Mr. Alford was involved or, or in, somehow peripherally involved, if not, because there were like 3 people, I think, in the getaway vehicle. And I thought that was interesting. His DNA was in the vehicle, but they said he drove it often. So they were kind of trying to use that, but it was like he was a roommate, and he clearly, it was confirmed that he drove the vehicle a lot. Yeah. So they had all these subpoenas, all these hearings, all these issues of noncompliance. Well, ultimately, the case went to trial, and the defense attorney has not been able to secure the receipt or anything from Hertz to confirm where Mr. Alford was.
Why would they be so resistant to... Do you ever deal with that?
Yeah. I was just thinking about it, because I have had to do so much follow-up lately for subpoenas just for medical records, medical and billing records, and some school records. Out-of-state records are a real pain in the ass because they don't have to comply with California subpoenas.
But this case, all they would have to do is find one receipt.
Yeah.
That's all they would have to do. It's not like your case where it's like, oh, we got to go through boxes and boxes to find this, person's files.
Well, and the thing is, like they said, it'd be different if it was a small local business. It's the Hertz Corporation. It is nationwide, if not worldwide. And even back in 2000, and the subpoenas weren't in 2011.
Excuse.
The subpoenas didn't start until 2015 when the case kind of got reawoken. So it wasn't even like in 2011 where it was like maybe you could see that like record keeping was a little bit more archaic. I mean, we have clients, retail clients, because we deal with like slip and fall defenses and things. And the first thing we do is they pull the receipts, and that is back to 2015, that's back to 2010. Like, I know electronic, like that's the first thing they pull. And even if it wasn't the first thing they pull, if it was years down the line, they could pull it. I'm just sure, because it's just, now it's all electronic. And
why couldn't he have pulled up? I mean, he must have paid in cash for this rental car. I think it was
a credit card. That's what I don't
Wouldn't
understand.
he be able to check his bank statements?
Well, I don't know that that's time-stamped back then. I think it said...
I think it was. Back in 2011?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it said... Because this was a question for me, is that what was really emphasized in one of the statements in one of the articles was that the receipt would show that his credit card was used to pay for this rental car. And I was like, oh, that's very specifically worded. It doesn't say it would show that he was there renting a car. It would show that his credit card was being used. So I was like... So
he could have called it in, potentially.
Or someone else used his credit card, because I still don't know if people are really careful, about check. But I would think that in this day and age, even in 2011, whether they would insist on ID, or I don't know, or if someone else was using it.
Well, you
I
can
don't think they ask for ID.
You can use a card over the phone or online.
Yeah.
So.
But I think the receipt. I mean, the thing is, he must have been confident, and his attorney, that he was there. That's what makes me, because they were so adamant about obtaining this receipt and they asked for any surveillance footage. I mean,
But they wouldn't have kept it over so long. I mean, it would have been one thing if it was like, okay, we're investigating you, you know, a couple weeks later. But I don't think Hertz probably keeps security footage from years ago where nothing has happened.
I think
know?
the problem is that they were just non-responsive. So
Yeah.
So you have no response from them. You have people not showing up at hearings. And then at one point you have one or two representatives saying, we've searched the records. We've found nothing. The records may have been purged. And it was ultimately like, no, that's false because you clearly came up with the receipt in, 2018.
So can there be no legal action against Hertz like immediately when they're not complying to help a person in court?
Well, unfortunately, it is a slowish process. So all this time, like, who knows if...
But if they aren't showing up, if they're refusing to do any, you know, put any effort in at all, is there any kind of like, are there any kind of fines or anything for them?
There are records saying that the, court was holding them in contempt, but until you can get someone to like show up at a hearing or, get the right person served. And like, I don't know if in contempt in criminal court, like in civil, you can sanction a party, which means that you can fine them. The court fines parties. The court will fine attorneys, so you can't just not show up for things. But the problem is that
because you have to show up for jury duties. So, I mean, I would think.
Yeah. And I think you can be held in contempt if you don't show up, and fined.
You can get in trouble.
And maybe that's what contempt means. I don't really know. I don't really know criminal. But, basically the onus is still on the attorney who's trying to get the records.
Onus?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
I'm sorry. I think I'm pronouncing it right. It basically means the obligation, the burden.
Okay.
Is on. So if we want records
onus.
And onus. So sensual. Onus. Anyway, if we are subpoenaing records from a provider or just any location and they're not complying, it's on us to do follow-up letters, to get an affidavit or declaration from the process server or the record service we're using, and then ultimately to file a motion. And then if the court grants that motion and issues an order, we have to serve the order, make sure. And it's like you have to do
steps,
all the work, and you can bring it before the court. And in this case, the judge was saying, okay, they're clearly not showing up and they're clearly not providing records. So here, but you still have to like prepare the proposed order that then the judge signs off. So it's like the court does very little, to nothing on its own. You have to like do all this legwork. But the court was, it seemed, not like being reasonable and issuing these orders that then the attorney had to go try to get served on the right people. So I kind of
sounds like a headache.
It's a headache, but it's not old enough that they couldn't have kept good records.
Mm-hmm.
And then saying that they couldn't find records and the records were likely purged, and then that wasn't the case, and they found the records. And the fact that the trial proceeded, it seems kind of shitty that the trial proceeded when everyone involved in the case knew that there was this evidence out there. Whether or not it would exonerate...
What was that?
Whether or not it would exonerate Mr. Alford. Everyone knew it was out there. Like, how do you just proceed with a trial? But you only get so much time.
Unbelievable.
Unfucking-leavable. Why do you have a little smile on your face? I feel like you're... What?
Because I was just saying unbelievable. I didn't really hear some of what you said. My eyes are kind of glazing over.
Wow, I'm so glad you're interested in the topic.
I am, but the court jargon and all the legal stuff.
I'm sorry, I'll try
goodness.
to...
It's fine. I just, I don't have patience for legal stuff.
Okay. Well, it is, it can be very dry. Criminal stuff is more interesting, but still when you get down to it, like, it's not all smoking guns and like dramatic courtroom scenes. I mean, it's actually quite
No, it's
dry.
all exchanging paperwork.
It is. It really is. It really is. But in this case, I mean, it's very frustrating. And so now Mr. Alford, so he served 4.65 years or 1,700 days where he was, in jail or in prison. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. I think they said he was, I had it here somewhere.
That's a long
I think they
time.
said he was like 40s or 50s, and would have been in jail possibly for the rest of his life, or, when he was quite old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So he was convicted by a jury in December 2016 and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. One of his attorneys appealed, and in August of 2008, a judge granted his motion for a new trial based on the evidence received from Hertz. So then the Court of Appeals sends it back to the state superior court, and they have to give him a new trial.
So did Hertz just show up on their own accord and be like, hey,
No.
hey, by the way.
No. Sorry.
What?
It's just the way I was like, no.
That's fine.
I didn't mean to like cut you off. So Hertz didn't respond to 5 subpoenas and court orders issued between June 2015 through November 2016.
Those stupid bastards.
The court went ahead with the jury trial in December 2016, as we know. So Hertz didn't release the records until early 2018. At that point, Alford was about a year into a prison sentence of 32 years and 5 months to 62 years and 5 months. I don't know how they decide that range, but he said he'll never forgive Hertz for ignoring the court orders and subpoenas. So he was, fuck's sake, where's the fucking, when did they actually release the goddamn records? Okay, so I think what happened is that Hertz was compelled by the court to appear, some representative to appear at a hearing on a certain day. And a few days before the hearing, they miraculously came up with the documents. And the receipt is right here. I have it here. And I couldn't find it. So it says, 10/18/2011. Oh, 1,500 hours. There it is. Like 3 o'clock on the nose. See? Shoop, right there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, credit card. Yeah, so I don't understand.
So was it in person? It was done. It was paid for with a credit card. Mm-hmm. Why the hell couldn't they have looked up his bank records?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Did they just not think about the very obvious
I don't
possibility
know.
of looking up a person's bank statements?
It's weird that in all of this, I didn't even think of that because I was so outraged.
Well, I feel bad now for...
No, I'm glad you thought that.
Those stupid idiots didn't even consider...
No, but I'm not a fucking criminal defense attorney. Like, and really the thing is, I think that it maybe just hasn't been covered because in all of the news articles that I saw online, they said kind of the same, there's kind of the same story coming out with a little bit of variation on the facts. Well, then I go to this place called, this website that is the National Registry of Exonerations. And it's, I don't know if it's tied to the Innocence Project, but look at this, 2,754 exonerations since 1989, more than 24,690 years lost. So it's, cataloging and some, giving details of all these people whose cases were overturned because they were wrongfully imprisoned. So
people have been wrongfully imprisoned for 24,690 years?
Right.
Compiled. Yeah, of course. Not one person. That poor man.
But it's just to kind of highlight how many people get, wrongfully. God, why can't I say that word? Wrongfully imprisoned.
Wrongfully imprisoned.
But in this article, they really kind of break down the relationships between the people, like the lady he was living with, and the people in the cars who were, kind of watching the drug deal go bad and seeing the guy get shot. And one of the things they talked about was, which reminded me of the Adnan Syed case, which I feel like you might enjoy. I've listened to it twice, and I always like get something new, and I forget like key important stuff. Like I'm always like so interested and convinced of his innocence and outrage. And then there's like other episodes where you're like, I'm not really sure. This is quite sketchy. Like what the hell? And
well, that could possibly be why, the jury voted guilty because, they're deep in it. Whereas everybody on the outside is seeing this kind of black and white, like he did it or he didn't. Everybody says he didn't. But then, when you're in it, it's like you have all these details to sift through.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you have multiple people identifying him as the shooter. Even if it's, they're drug addicts, and they were actively using at the time or under the influence at the time they supposedly witnessed, this killing. But
wasn't there a study done on eyewitnesses and how they're completely useless though?
I don't want to say completely useless, but it's very
completely useless. I'm pretty sure there was a study done where people were just getting all kinds of shit wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. They are notoriously unreliable. And if you have eyewitnesses who are under the influence of heavy illicit drugs, like that just compounds the issue.
Yeah, and especially if the police are showing the dumb drug addict a photo of the guy and being like, is this the man you saw?
Right.
Yeah, that's him.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Case closed.
Or like you definitely have a bias or you're persuaded to think that someone is guilty if you see that they're wanted on TV, which I think is why one of the witnesses identified him after seeing him on TV. Yeah. Well, you already know that he's under suspicion, and maybe then you're like, well, I'm going to help, or I have my own criminal issues going on, so if I help, and it's like
it's not solid evidence. Yeah. At all.
Yeah. So, but the other thing that came up was that there were cell phone records pinging, because I did wonder, what if the time stamp clock for the Hertz location was off? Because that happens too. Like
but
we had
if that was off, then the other records would be off.
What other records?
All the surrounding records of rentals for that day, I would assume, would also be off. So you're talking about time-wise, like during the day?
I'm talking about if maybe the clock, however it gets stamped, however the clock that Hertz uses is off, because because none of the other
I guess if it's only off by like 20 minutes, you might not be able to tell.
Yeah, so because there were cell phone records that were showing that his cell phone was pinging towers in the location near the murder scene around the time.
But didn't you say he was like 20 minutes away anyway?
Well, no, the airport where he was renting the car was like supposedly 20 minutes away from the murder scene.
But wouldn't you be pinging it from 20 minutes away?
So he was pinging, let me see.
Pinging.
Yeah, I know, it's
a fun word. Ping. Ping-a-ling.
So they claim that according to the receipt, he was there at 3:00 renting a rental car, right? Renting a car. But
yes.
Shut up. But for some reason, the cell phone records were not introduced at trial. And I don't understand this, because I feel like there were similar issues in the Adnan Syed case where they were either not admitted or there was some issue with them where it was like, what the fuck? Why? But I think it's not still an exact, or at least in the time of that case, it wasn't like an exact science. Like you couldn't maybe rely on the records of the pinging of the towers. But they're saying here that his cell phone was pinging cell phone towers near the shooting at approximately 2:30 p.m. and traveling north to the airport, pinging off towers along the way at 2:58, 3:04, 3:06. Had Alford been at Hertz at 3:06 or 3:07 p.m., that would have been sufficient time to travel from the location. So the shooting happened first, and then he went to rent the car. if they said 306 or 307, that would have been enough time for him to travel from the location of the shooting to Hertz at the Lansing airport. But that has not been coming up in any of the other articles. And I don't know if it's because, in civil cases, you can, like, get certain evidence excluded. Like, it can't be heard. It can't be brought before the jury, either because it might be, like, prejudicial or it's just irrelevant and prejudicial or whatever. But in this case, I don't know. I didn't see anything. I don't think I saw any. I was looking at...
My head is spinning right now.
I'm sorry. Okay. So, but the fact is, so Mr. Alford is suing Hertz because he spent, almost 5 years in prison. And
But it seems...
regardless, they didn't come up with these goddamn records.
True. But it does seem like, from what you just said, that it is possible that he was involved.
Yeah. But without substantial evidence, and I think now there's going to be, a bias or reluctance to prosecute, even if new evidence came up, to prosecute the same man who was still potentially wrongfully imprisoned based on the evidence that was, submitted.
Yeah.
Because if you have unreliable witnesses who are later recanting, saying, I was paid by the police.
So that was their only evidence is eyewitnesses?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Well, they had DNA from the car, but he drove the car all the time.
Man.
Yeah. And then I think one guy said, I think the son of the roommate, Willine's son, didn't like him because Alford wasn't helping with rent, supposedly, and was sleeping with another family member or something. So he, I think, also pointed the finger.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Man.
Okay, so that is the same guy, Bailey. So Bailey testified and gave varying accounts of his activities on the day of the crime.
Isn't that a Bailey? Bailey. Isn't that a lady's name?
That's his last name.
Oh. Okay.
But the other thing that this guy said was that the Durango that was supposedly the murder getaway, almost said weapon, car, was flying. So it's like,
flying getaway
not
weapon.
actually flying, but, so if maybe it just kind of injects this little bit of doubt, like if Alford was driving really fast.
Yes.
And could get to, and then if maybe the timestamp was off, the clock at Hertz was off. Because we had a case recently where I think we got video surveillance and our people, probably can't talk about it. So there's been cases where.
Well, you can have like.
Daylight savings time or.
And you can have like punch card timers and shit that are off.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we had to say to someone where we disclosed video footage and said it was daylight savings time or whatever the other one is, and so it's off by an hour, or the clock was off by this much, so you have to, and it's like, but there's no like evidence of that. There was no, you know what I mean? There's no one to say differently, and so 7 minutes to the Hertz Corporation might not have been important. Except in a murder trial. It's very important here. But the thing is that this guy and his attorneys were so adamant to get these records that you have to think that he didn't have something to do with it, because why would you request the records if there was any chance that it would show that actually you were wrong? If you didn't know exactly what was in those records. And that's the thing. Is like we always have to subpoena records, even though we don't know if anything good or bad is going to be in them. But
and you wouldn't know that he wouldn't know that the time cards were off or that the timestamp was off
unless someone had said something. But like, what are the odds?
Why would they do that?
What are the odds?
And who would say something? It would have to be someone from Hertz, and they couldn't provide anything.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, at the time, like they just happened to say, "Oh, our timestamp's off," so this receipt, like he'd have the receipt. I don't know. So
yeah, that's what I just said.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking.
That's what I just fucking said.
All right, I'm the dumb one. Fuck.
Yes.
Get to give you a medal, you Mensa.
Just kidding. You what?
Mensa. It's like next level up from genius, I think. You're like a Mensa. I don't know.
A Mensa?
Yeah.
Is a level up from a genius?
I don't know. Might be a few levels up. Let's look up Mensa. That's the joke I always say is like, oh, he's clearly not a Mensa. It's like it's not rocket scientist. Mensa is the largest and oldest high IQ society in the world. It's a nonprofit organization. Well, how would you profit from it? Open to people who score at the 98th percentile or higher on a standardized supervised IQ. I'm not a Mensa. Or other approved intelligence tests.
Mensa.
So I think you say, like, someone is a Mensa, but I'm not really sure how you actually use it. That's what I would say.
You're a Mensa.
You're a Mensa member.
In your Abraina.
You're a Mensa, Mr. Mens. How dare you?
Okay.
So my thing is,
Good Lord.
my thing is that,
What's your thing? Tell us your thing.
all right, is that why would he, I don't think you would be so adamant about getting these records unless you knew that you were there when you said you were there and you knew what was going to be in those records.
Yeah.
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 The other thing that I saw that I was a little confused about is there is some transcript content with the judge at some point where they're talking about video footage. And I'm not sure if they mean video footage from the crime or video footage from the Hertz rental. So I actually emailed his lawyer's office today
What?
and said, I said, hey, we're doing a podcast. You know, we're a small independent podcast and we're doing an episode on this guy. And I just wondered, was there surveillance from the Hertz company exchange transaction? And if so, was it ever made public? And could I find it somewhere? Because I tried to go on the criminal docket and pull up the case, but you have to know the guy's date of birth. And I'm pretty sure they're keeping all that under wraps. So I haven't heard back.
Wow.
I haven't heard back, but
So you did some digging and some contacting?
I
Look
did
at you.
contacting, yeah. But I mean, this guy, his name is, I think, Jamie White is the attorney. He looked like he had some other kind of maybe high profile things, but he is probably getting flooded with. I mean, NPR, had this story.
Well, and we're like a teeny tiny podcast.
Yeah, but
so
I said it's very important to us that, we like to look into, well, I mean, not like that's like our thing. We've done this is our second kind of serious episode apart from Jizz Lane. But
fucking Jizz Lane, you
Jizz Lane.
bitch.
You jizzy bitch. But I just said, we're very interested in this case, and we just wondered if there was I said Brandon's especially interested in. I didn't really say that. I didn't say that. I said we're very interested in.
What's with you? How much caffeine have you had today?
It was hours ago. It was the sketty.
I can't keep
It's the
up with you.
sketty coma. But anyway, I did get a little bit of a high just asking. I felt a little bit like, what's her name? Michelle McNamara, Patton Oswalt's wife who died.
Oh, yeah.
Because, but she obviously had years and years of, looking into the Golden State Killer and pursuing evidence. And I had this one moment and I felt like
sleuthing.
Yeah, I know how that feels now. And I didn't even get what I wanted. You
need a Dick Tracy hat now.
I do. I do.
And a little
recorder?
Eyeglass.
Oh, yeah.
What is that called?
I don't think they use those.
And a corncob pipe. I don't think they smoke corncob pipes. They smoke
pipes?
regular pipes.
Are they really made of corn cobs? Why?
Yeah, a corncob pipe is made out of a corncob and a little tube
Why?
that goes into it. Because it's
Pour?
Easy to make.
Interesting.
Yeah, look up a picture of a corncob pipe.
Right now?
Yeah.
Corn cob pipe.
That's what they're called.
Thank you. Oh.
You want to do image search.
Okay.
See? It's a corn cob with a stick in it. With a tube in it.
Maybe it makes it sweeter?
Could be.
Huh. Because, isn't,
Maybe corn cobs
syrup
aren't flammable?
What's wrong with us today? How many hours of video games did you play?
I can never speak. I
Yes, you
played
can.
8 hours of video games today.
And I was doing research and napping.
Excuse me.
Thank you very much for adding that to this episode. Anyway, so at one point, the judge says, video, who has the video? And I'm trying to figure out what video are they talking about? And the attorney, fuck off. The attorney is like, well, it's a video that I just found out the Lansing Police Department obtained 4 years ago. And I have never seen it until now. And the attorney is saying, it's the same video that is the subject of one of the subpoenas you issued. And I'm like, is this like a Hertz video, or is this a supposed video of the incident? That maybe someone took on their phone or something. And I'm still not sure. And that's
So you
why
couldn't
I
find
emailed
any
the guy.
info on it?
No, and I didn't do like a whole lot of digging, but I just feel like if it's evidence.
Well, why not?
Because my first few searches were, there was nothing. I mean, I did do a few searches, but I think if it was like on YouTube or something, it would be very clearly labeled. And I have a feeling that they didn't really want it to get out there. Mm-hmm. Because also if people watch it and go, that's not the guy, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if that's the video they're talking about or if they're talking about some other video, but I just thought I'm going to reach out and ask.
So you're still waiting on a response.
I imagine I'll probably be waiting forever, but I figured what the hell? Maybe he'll feel sorry for me, or someone in their office will say, oh, they're a little podcast and they're doing a little bit of coverage of this.
Yeah, an attorney working on a pretty big deal case, I'm going to imagine that he doesn't have a lot of free time.
Think big. He's got fucking assistants and stuff,
Yeah, buddy, you got fucking assistants. Come on.
Hey, I would pay for it if it was something that but like when online court records usually don't include like media files. If anything, they include like the pleadings, and it would have to be filed or submitted in some, but you usually can't get like media files without requesting them from the court. And like, I don't know, if you're not involved in the case, like they're going to question you, and like you really don't have like an interest in getting them, but I'm just surprised. I don't know. So, anyway, so Mr. Alford is suing Hertz, and let's see. Okay, so it says he's claiming more than $25,000 in damages, but I think that is just like a category of lawsuit. Like you either have, like you have like certain ranges. So I think he just had to classify that he's filing a suit for more than $25,000.
That's the total he's filing a suit for? It's more than that.
No, but I think it's like a threshold within, it's just like a certain category.
I was going to say there are people that sprain their ankle at Home Depot and try to sue for seven figures.
Yeah. Well, and maybe he's actually being very reasonable, but 5 years of incarceration is worth a fucking lot of money.
That's a lot of life, especially wrongfully imprisoned.
I'd say sue for at least $1 million, because fuck you.
Absolutely at least $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people out here that wrongfully sue, in my opinion, and they get like $500,000 easy. Yeah.
Anyway,
pretty easy, pretty fucking easy.
What is your basis? What is your evidence of that?
Really, just one.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, I got it. So yeah, I do. So I was trying to think in my head, what would your damages be? Like,
and it wasn't me, by the way.
Yeah.
Just for the listener. I wasn't the one who sued.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on.
I can corroborate. So he is, I was thinking to myself, like, what would all of your claims be, for money, apart from like the emotional distress of being in fucking prison, treated like a criminal, thinking you're going to be there for the rest of your life. Well, you don't have a job. You're not advancing in your career for 5 years. You're not seeing your family. Whatever else. So then I was like, it was just kind of interesting to think about it. It's completely
lost life.
Yeah.
It's 5 years of lost living.
And potentially shaving off other time of your life because of the stress of being incarcerated. That has to, they talk about how stress is a killer. And
then you're going to have to go to
lifespan.
therapy, I'm assuming. And
then you're still involved in a lawsuit. It's still stressful.
Yeah.
It kind of breaks it down here. Over 1,700 days in the Ingham County Jail and the Michigan Department of Corrections. He was unable to work and earn an income. He was denied the love and companionship of his family. He was denied the pleasures of a normal life that he had enjoyed prior. While on bond from February 19th, 2020 until December 8th, 2020, he was denied the ability to live a normal life and enjoy the pleasures of that normal life. I think while he was he was required to wear a GPS tether, and his movements were restricted. He had to incur significant costs related to the GPS tether. He's incurred significant attorney fees and costs exceeding $100,000. So, and he sustained injuries like physical pain and suffering, from going to jail, mental anguish, all that stuff. So all that is kind of, goes into what they're claiming. And I didn't see. So Hertz Corporation is filing bankruptcy, which when you file bankruptcy, I think in most states, it's an automatic stay, which means you can't be sued. There's all kinds of stuff when you're in bankruptcy. There's like protections, but you can also seek relief from stay if you have something like this, or like, we had a case where, a company was going through bankruptcy, but because they had insurance at the time of the incident, you set aside that, okay, well, in your claim, you can seek the insurance proceeds, but you just can't pursue any of recovery from any of the assets or anything that are being, distributed or reorganized or whatever. So there's a motion for relief from stay that his attorney filed to try to get money for his lawsuit. And I don't know if that was ruled on. It might have been kind of old, but and that's where I got like some of these documents and was like reading the background of like all the subpoenas they tried to issue and all the times that Hertz disregarded them or didn't show up or gave false statements about, the records must have been purged, And then conveniently a few days before they were compelled to appear at a hearing, they produced the records that showed, he was at the airport at 3:00. So it's just obviously shitty.
Yes.
I still, kind of question, and I think he's just in, maybe an impoverished type area. It's a very active kind of drug scene. But, if there's hard evidence that he was not, and there's no other evidence to the contrary, like real credible witnesses or physical evidence. They said there's no physical or forensic evidence to link this guy to the crime.
Yeah.
You just have drug-addled people pointing the finger,
which is
in exchange for how does that work?
Yeah, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work.
Yeah. So, and I think the prosecutors, basically had to file a statement that says, well, in light of this evidence, we don't have enough, to bring a new trial against him. And the prosecutors had to then go to the family and say, sorry, but we can't proceed. I'm sorry that you don't have justice, but, we can't proceed with this new trial based on this evidence. And so much of the time, I think you see families, they want that closure and that resolution. And so they latch on to whoever the police and the prosecutors have latched on to. They're not interested necessarily in the truth because if you don't have this guy to pin it on, you just have this nebulous, vague, menacing figure in your mind and you have no idea who killed your family member,
Yeah.
So you kind of get the psychology of it, but also,
but
you don't know
not
that
right.
he did it.
It's not right to convict
It's not right
the
to
wrong.
just pin it on a guy. Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry. I got excited.
I tried to say one thing.
I'm sorry. I'll cut that. And what were you gonna say?
It's fine.
Oh, come on.
Let's move on.
Come on. Please. I got excited.
Please. The moment is gone.
No, don't.
It has passed.
No, don't.
Let's continue.
Please don't. Please forgive me.
I forgive you.
All right.
I think you're just a little amped up, a little zippy.
I didn't have caffeine for hours.
Can't.
I haven't had caffeine for hours.
Okay.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Just take a breath.
Take a breath of you.
Fucking take a breath.
Basically Alford and his attorneys and were just saying, there's no excuse for a global organization like Hertz to not be able to pull these records up.
At least to not be involved.
To not be showing, like you care. Like you put the proper importance on it.
I think they absolutely deserve to be sued, whether he was involved or not.
Yeah.
I think something should happen because that's some bullcrap.
And I think any individuals involved in the legal department, I think should be individually sued because otherwise it's just sort of like the company just kind of absorbs the cost of whatever payout.
Or like find where they work now, and kick them in the butthole as hard as you can with like a steel toe boot.
I hope at some point that is appropriate, like actual recourse that can be, obtained.
Because they probably
court.
can't afford, like a lawsuit.
Hertz? Or like the individuals?
The individuals.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah,
So
there
just
should
a
be
nice
like
toe kick.
yeah, or maybe the alternative is like some kind of extensive community service.
That makes more sense.
You like that?
Yeah, that makes more sense. But then again, I mean,
I do
you don't
like your idea.
You don't know what was going on in their lives.
Yeah.
You don't know if their managers or whatever were being awful and like, here, you do everything while I sit on my thumb. And then that person then gets punished.
But I feel like subpoenas, and especially subpoenas in a criminal case, I mean, I would fully understand if we had subpoenas out to that company and you have subpoenas on a criminal case. The criminal case should take priority. Someone's going to go to prison or has already been in prison because of delays because you can't fucking find this document or you don't,
Even if you can't find the document, be involved in some form.
There was no response.
Yeah.
As far as I understand,
There's
there was
no
no
excuse
response.
for that.
You send someone to that fucking hearing and you say, Your Honor, we are diligently, we've done that where we're like, we are looking and seriously looking. And sometimes stuff comes up 2 years down the line and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
But you are diligently looking and responding and taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And my cases aren't even about someone going to jail and losing 5 years of their life. It's very important. You have, as far as we're concerned, we have one life to live, and you've just taken 5 years of it.
So are we going back to the toe kick?
Yeah, you've convinced me. I mean, let's put it before the judge.
Cruel and unusual.
Deserves cruel and unusual right back.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you were gonna say?
Who is that TV judge that wields a bat? There's like a TV judge.
I was gonna say
wields
Judy,
a
but
bat.
I've never seen her with a bat.
No, it's a guy.
Okay, let's see. TV judge
He's known.
with bat. Akim Anastapoulou?
He's the guy on the left, I'm assuming.
The guy with the bat? Extreme Akim.
Yeah, he's known, I guess, for cruel and unusual punishments.
Does he actually
I
hit
think he's
people?
an actual judge. I don't think he hits people. It's like his thing. He's just kind of a
he
weird
just
TV
threatens
judge.
them?
No, he
Okay. Wait, maybe I should have looked up videos.
he uses it as his gavel, I think.
Ah.
But he sentences people to cruel and unusual punishments.
Like what?
Just weird, maybe more unusual punishments.
Okay.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I think if anybody out there knows who I'm talking about, they know. Or look it up.
Extreme Akim doses a man with laxatives. Interesting.
See what I'm talking about? So check him out, everybody. Check him out. I forgot his name already. Baseball bat judge.
Akim. Extreme Akim.
Extreme Akim.
Former prosecutor Stuart Dunnings initially charged Alford before resigning amid criminal charges in July 2016. So that always makes you feel good if one of the prosecutors was embroiled in, criminal scandal. Another prosecutor during his trial is now the governor of Michigan. So that's just, a little tidbit. Yeah, Mr. Dunnings was charged with 1 count of pandering. I don't really know what that means, but it's a felony. 14 misdemeanor counts, 10 of engaging a prostitute, and 4 of willful neglect of duty. Following the charges, he was placed on medical leave, with his duties being taken over by Chief Assistant Prosecutor Lisa McCormick. He announced his resignation effective July 2nd, 2016. So, it's just like, obviously people are flawed. There's always going to be stuff, but it just seems like stacked up. I don't know. There's just, it just seems like there's always corruption, not transparency, and just that the criminal justice system is riddled with problems. And people go to jail, especially impoverished areas, people of color, people with a, record already. And they just...
Yeah, you never see the sheriff's son going to jail.
Right.
Even though he's usually the biggest...
dickhead
in town.
Yeah. So
not always, though.
Yeah.
But
right. We're not talking about anyone in particular, are we?
No.
All right.
No.
But you just gotta wonder.
But it is a thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Privilege. It's privilege again. It's always privilege. But you just have to wonder how many people are still just languishing in prison. And I appreciate, like the Innocence Project. There's probably scores of others, or just attorneys trying to make sure that people get, maybe new trials, if nothing else. I think they just look at old evidence nowadays, which can be bad because I think bad people who are convicted rightfully are sometimes convicted not technically correctly, or evidence has been tampered, or if you have officers, being corrupted, it can, I think, overturn or undo convictions. But there's just so much crap, and these are people's lives, and he lost 5 of his. So
I can't imagine losing 5 years of my life to prison based on a crime I didn't commit.
Yeah. And then, like he said, just thinking all the time, every time I would go to bed at night, like, I'm going to be here forever. I'm never getting out,
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. How depressing.
And based on one piece of paper, basically.
Yeah. And having your family, turn their back on you.
Well, he said, I'm very grateful to the attorneys, and I'm very grateful to my family for sticking with me through this nightmare. So it sounds like they stuck with him. Because, what if you have a partner who thinks you're never getting out of jail and
thinks you're guilty.
Potentially thinks you're guilty, or just how do you have a relationship? Like, what if you, or as the person, if you think I'm going to be in prison for the rest of my life, you need to move on and meet someone new. I mean,
suicidal thoughts would really start rolling.
Yeah. I mean, who wants to be in prison? It's a horrible place. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never been there, but you just know. It's just not good.
I've visited a prison.
Yeah.
And it stunk like shit.
Oh, yeah, your parents were trying to scare you. Well, not even straight. I mean, you weren't even doing stuff.
It might have been at the jail my grandpa worked at or something. I don't remember. He worked he had a few different jobs after retiring from the police department, but yeah, it stunk like poop. That's all I remember.
But they wanted to scare you, or it was like a tour? Like, I thought
it was kind of like a weird little tour. I was very young, but I think I went with my brother, and we both got fingerprinted, I think. And the only thing I really remember is being fingerprinted and the place stinking like shit and being like, I want to get the fuck out of here. It stinks like shit. You couldn't shit in a toilet and, God.
Wow, you're really this is really a visceral...
I get really worked up about...
Smells?
About shit things. My parents have watched these shows about prisons and how some inmates will smear their shit on the walls, and it's like, fuck.
You always bring up with the Capitol insurgents how they were smearing shit on the wall. Not always, but I think that really impacted you more.
That triggers me so much. You do not smear your shit on things.
I like how you said you do not do that.
You do not fucking do that. I mean, and just seeing this show of this criminal who smeared shit all over his cell.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
And the people who work there had to go in and clean it.
That's disgusting.
And I just remember thinking, it would be so hard to not just say, fuck you guys, I quit. I'm not cleaning this fucking shit off the walls.
And what are you are you touching your own shit and smearing it on the walls? Are you
Probably.
wearing a glove? Are you using a towel? Like, who does that?
Probably somebody who's gone insane.
Yeah. But on the flip side, that is what... I'm not saying that these people should be at like a 5-star resort, but I don't think that even for, you know, someone who's done a horrible crime, like, you got to look at the, like, what made them that way, or how are they broken? Like, maybe that's not the best way to deal with someone who's so fucked already.
It's very strange. I think...
I mean, should you just kill them? Like, and I know that's not really an option, but like, I feel like if you really knew that you had no chance of getting out, the survival instinct is strong, but maybe I would want to just be dead.
Yeah.
If I could never get out.
Well, I think you would think more about suicide than you would smearing shit on the walls.
Yeah.
That's what baffles me. Is like,
I wouldn't want that in my cell.
Why is that a thing you go to? My thought would be like, oh God, they're gonna make me live in it. Mm-hmm. That would be my thought, but they can't.
Yeah.
I think they can't legally make a prisoner live in their own shit-smeared cell.
And they probably know that unless they're insane. Mm-hmm. And they don't care.
I think the guy probably knew.
Yeah, I'm just going to fuck with you because I know you have to come in and clean it up.
Mm-hmm. It would just make you really want to, you know, do something. Mm-hmm. Do something you would regret, be fired for, go to prison yourself for.
It's basically taking people who have maybe acted like animals and then putting them in a place that just kind of makes them act more like animals. Like, I feel like you're not trying to get that savagery out of them.
Prisons are not good for reform.
Yeah. And it would be nice, like, you know, you want to catch it earlier, so you want to do education and get everyone fed and, you know, having just abundant food, water, education, good safe,
out of abusive households,
safety, upbringing, but like, you have to, you know, so that's a huge thing. But then if you know, have to deal with them as an adult, you know, not having had those things, it just seems like there's a better way to do it. And if that makes me a freaking tree hugging liberal hippie, whatever, but it's just, we have to deal with these people.
But there's not really much you can do. I mean, you know, it costs money, and you can't really have them like out and about. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to monitor them.
Yeah, I'm not saying let them out, but I mean, obviously, there's just
you can't have them in a nicer area.
There's too much corruption. There's just like too much money being spent on the wrong things.
Of course,
and it's a huge endeavor, and we're a large country, and you know we have all these different states and different ways they want to do things.
Whenever you talk about trying to fix one thing, when you back up, you see the 100 other things related to that one thing that also need fixing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so that's uplifting.
Yeah, what happened?
I'm happy for this guy, you know, that he got out. I hope he gets a good amount of money to have a good life and a new start, to find his life's purpose and live his best life. That's what I hope for him.
Yeah. Assuming he didn't do it, because it sounds like he still could have potentially done it.
Maybe.
So it's a little like...
I just find the adamant pursuit of the records from Hertz is confidence that he didn't do it.
Yeah.
And that the records would show that he didn't do it. Or it was a gamble, because it's like, well, you're already convicted anyway. So if the stuff shows that you did it, then, well, you're in prison for the rest of your life.
It could have been the lawyer pressing for...
Yeah. But I'm sure he's talking to his client all the time. I mean, they get to talk to their clients.
But that's what I'm saying is I think it could have been the lawyer pushing. Mm-hmm. Potentially, it could have been the lawyer pushing for that.
It can't make it worse for you. It can only potentially make it better. Mm-hmm. That could be.
Who the heck knows, really?
Yeah, we probably won't know.
Only he knows.
You're right.
Whether he did it or not.
You're right. I think the attorneys don't even ask, did you actually do it? Tell me. I promise I won't tell. You know what I mean? I think they just don't ask. Sometimes it's obvious, but I think they just don't actually talk about but tell me, did you actually do it? You know what I mean?
It probably would make it harder to defend them. If you knew and if you have any conscience mm-hmm. and you knew that your client had committed the murder or whatever crime mm-hmm. it is, I think it would make it a lot harder for you to defend them with a straight face.
Well,
It's not like the judge is looking for your tell or anything.
Yeah. I think they just, a lot of criminal attorneys or defense attorneys, their idea is, everyone is entitled to a proper defense. And that's what this job is.
Yeah.
It's not like I love defending criminals or whatever, but I'm sure they get equally people who are bad and have done bad things and equally people who haven't and are being targeted by police.
Well, I think there are situations where you have multiple offenses for one person. And it's like, okay, the person did it because they're just constantly committing crimes.
Yeah.
Anytime they don't have cuffs on, they're fucking committing a crime. Those people definitely exist. And the people that defend them are often, I think, kind of shitbags.
I think it's just their job. I mean, you don't have people choosing to, I'm going to go defend this.
But that's why they have this ugly view of them from society as like just kind of being
defense attorneys.
Yeah, just kind of being heartless and like just kind of ugly because of that.
But they're not people who are just attorneys and then like they decide to go defend this guy. They're people whose jobs it is to defend defendants. Like that's what they do, because...
Yeah, but you can pick your clients.
I think sometimes, like if you're like a, what do they call them? I can't think of the, if you're like a defense attorney, like a court can appoint, if you can't afford your own attorney, a court appoints an attorney for you and it's like a public defender.
Oh,
but I think this guy...
Isn't it within the attorney's rights to throw his or her hands up if they're... Not.
I think if you're a public defender, you have to defend.
Oh man!
But
okay.
I don't think I don't know about this Jamie White guy. I'd like to look into him a little bit because I think he might be someone who, kind of defends these kind of cases, or maybe the family, because it says this guy has like over $100,000 in legal fees. So I don't think this guy is a public defender. I mean, he has his own. Maybe back in the day he was, but he has his own. I think independent law firm. I don't really know how criminal law works, but you have people that's just their job. They are just the defenders.
That job would suck, depending.
But I think
depending.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking of like the local cases or the police posts on Facebook and how they're like, local meth head. Mm-hmm. He stole a car. He had, he was carrying weapons. He had tons of stolen credit cards. And it's like, so whenever this guy's breathing outside of a cell, he's fucking committing crimes.
Yeah.
So, that defending those kind of people would it would be awful. Mm-hmm. I would hate that job because you're dealing with the poop smearer.
Yeah.
But
you also, I think that defense attorneys get definitely they have a bad reputation, but I think kind of equally there's shitty people on the prosecution side as there are on the, because I think equally you probably have these cases where it's someone who's wrongfully accused or someone who maybe is mentally ill and you just need to help them navigate, or that they don't have the resources or the competence, or you have people, who just never had a good start in life, or you have people who are just, bad. But did I already say people who didn't do it? You know what I mean? It's a mix.
Yeah,
and I think it's the same with prosecutors is you have to bring cases. So who knows if, deep inside the prosecutors of this guy weren't thinking this isn't right, but their job is to, get the maximum sentence or the sentence, or, their job is to convict. That is their job, even if inside they're going, this isn't right. It's not right that we got, this kind of win on a technicality or because they can't I mean, wouldn't that feel shitty as a person? That deep down, but I think they have to compartmentalize. That deep down you think
there's a huge doubt.
There's a Hertz receipt out there somewhere. And this guy doesn't have it, and we're taking him to trial.
Yeah. That would feel like shit.
But you have to do that job, and you have to get that win if you can. I think they have quotas and shit.
Well, and I think society's not super aware of that because they don't normal society typically doesn't see it from the side of the prisoner.
Yeah.
unless, until they've been wrongfully accused.
Yeah. If you didn't do
or have a
anything
family
wrong,
member who's been wrongfully accused.
Yeah.
Then they,
if you didn't do anything wrong, you wouldn't be in that seat. Is kind of the perception.
It kind of
You wouldn't
is.
be in shackles if you hadn't done it.
Yeah. But man, fucking only having testimony from drug addicts. What the fuck? Mm-hmm. That's some garbage.
Or people getting paid, and but it's the cops' word against that witness, and who's a drug addict, or saying they paid me to implicate him.
Yeah, and what's his motive for saying that?
Right.
Right. Does he have any motive to say that? That's what they should be looking into.
Maybe he's sober now. Maybe he's clean now. Who knows? Or maybe he just
maybe he regrets it.
Media coverage, because maybe now this guy's come out, and getting media coverage. Who knows? Who freaking knows? But if your story's all over the place, you're not making a reliable witness. Why is that like a key witness that puts this guy away? It is baffling. Mm-hmm. I would love to get in there, because I know I had a lot of misconceptions about even just civil work until I got in. And it's been very eye-opening. So it would be very interesting, or, maybe to interview like a defense attorney and say, what,
It's surprising that the case didn't get dropped because there wasn't sufficient evidence against him. Because just some moron saying he did it it should never be enough.
Yeah. Well, I think there were multiple people. I think there was another.
Did they know him?
Yeah.
That also is not great.
Right. So you have the guy who Mr. Alford was, sleeping with his mom's sister, or sleeping with someone, or not paying her rent.
That's a conflict of interest.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Who the fuck was in charge of this shit?
Mm-hmm. So,
but again, we don't really know the nitty-gritty details, so... Much
of the prosecution's case was focused on identifying the defendant as the man who chased and gunned down the victim. They maintained that the defendant was the man who Mr. Alford was the man who chased and gunned down the victim, because 2 eyewitness accounts and the testimony of a witness pursuant to an agreement with the prosecution. Curtis Lewis and Shalissa Kittle saw the victim being chased and gunned down. Lewis told police about the incident that same day. Kittle, on the other hand, was questioned by police days later. So she's the one who was able to identify the defendant, but her identification was made only after she had watched the news and saw him on TV as either it was when they were saying he was wanted or when they had arrested him. The other witness, Gilbert Bailey, was the one who I think said that they had paid him, and also that he was testifying in exchange for a lesser charge. Like, how is that not a conflict?
Well, and even if she had been questioned immediately after, I mean, like we had agreed upon earlier, eyewitnesses are not reliable.
Yeah. And drug-addled eyewitnesses are less reliable, god damn it.
I mean, haven't there been studies?
Yeah. I believe so,
in like the 90s on the lack of reliability.
Concept, yeah.
And this happened in 2010, 2011. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
I do think that the justice system is kind of fucked, because I think there are quotas for convictions. And
that's so fucking stupid.
I think that the idea is they just find a person who...
Are there really quotas?
Yeah, I think so.
That absolutely should be done away with.
I think to keep your job as a prosecuting attorney, because I think they're sometimes very sought after positions, is I think you have to get convictions. But I think the prosecutor can look at the case being built by the police and determine whether it's looks like it's good enough to bring to court, to bring charges.
So ruining someone's life to fill a quota.
I think they find the person who best, kind of fits who they think they can convict, and who, even if there's a question, it's who we have. It's who we have, and so we need to just, even if there's like some really serious questions, I don't think that
I thought it was always innocent until proven guilty.
It is.
Isn't that what they say?
But the thing is, they're not saying... There's questions, and we need to find the right person. They're like, I think in reality what happens, and I'm not just like making this up. I mean, I think I remember this from the serial case, is that they have someone and they don't really have anyone else. And even if there's serious questions about their culpability, like, this is who we're going to try to build a case against.
Man.
There's not like, no, we need to interview everyone exhaustively until we like know the truth. It's like not like that. And probably because the resources are limited, but I just feel like they kind of home in on someone and then they build the case against them.
And showing their picture around helps to get people to go, oh yeah, I saw him.
It totally
And then you're
influences
putting his face in place of the
Right.
actual face you
Right.
saw. Or because he looked similar, it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I remember that face. Yeah, it's the one you saw on the news.
One other thing that one of the people said is that later when they saw Alford
Alford.
in another town, they said he had cut his braids. And so it was like that was kind of key from one of the
Oh.
witnesses, like he was maybe trying to a little bit change his appearance.
Ah.
But this is just, you know,
But I mean, anybody can cut their hair. You know?
yeah.
That's not,
Yeah.
again, that's not like any kind of solid evidence.
Yeah. Right. But it was
Man.
mentioned in this, you know, I think it was just
This is stressful. This is a stressful
I see
topic.
that you are picking, and that I'll pick. I think I told you this last time that I'd pick a lighthearted one for this time, and then I didn't. But next time I absolutely will.
Yeah, I've got like a headache.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I am throwing a bunch of legal stuff at you, and I have a little bit of, like, obviously, more than a little bit of experience in the legal area, but still, there's
you're
a lot
saying
I
words
don't.
we don't know, like osmosis and
Osmosis, yeah, absolutely.
what was it?
Onus.
Onus?
Yeah, I didn't think that was just a legal
Anus, but with
thing.
an O.
Charlie's wheezing.
I thought that was my stomach.
Oh, I thought it was my butt. Just kidding. Speaking of animals and savagery,
You're standing on my foot.
that feels nice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It is fine. I think you have socks on or
Yeah.
slippers. Yeah.
Would it be not fine if I had bare feet?
No, if you had shoes
Oh,
on.
no. Yeah. My steel-toed boots. Do you have anything to...
My golf cleats. Gotta aerate your feet.
Do you have anything to add about this egregious miscarriage of justice? We think, if the guy didn't do it.
Yeah, it just really sucks that it's not like a crystal clear one way or the other type of situation.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the attorney emailing me saying, here's the video file. Because then I would have to take back everything I said about the guy maybe doing it.
Well, it could be a video. Remember, it could be him in the in Hertz.
Yeah. No, that's what I meant. That's what I thought it might be. And I actually don't expect the guy to email me. I mean, it's a complete shot in the dark. Like, we're a little indie podcast with 39 subscribers. He's already out. All the news articles are, covering this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they're getting a lot of calls, and I'm sure the guy's getting a lot of business. But I just thought I'd try.
Not
if
a
he's got assistants
tiny little baby podcast.
But that's why I was
saying,
like very humble, like, we're really interested in this case and we're trying to do an episode, like, or if an assistant said, actually, you can find it in the court records and here's, but they probably won't. I mean, they don't really necessarily want all that stuff just floating around.
yeah.
I think.
They're probably too busy right now.
Yeah.
But,
It'd be cool if I end up
cool.
finding it or finding out if there was a video or maybe it was a video of a supposed video of the incident. I will link it. But for now, you're just stuck with what we got here today.
Yep.
Any thoughts? Anything else?
Nothing but the obvious.
Okay.
If he's innocent, I hope he sues the shit out of Hertz and lives a good life.
Yeah. I think he'll get a good something.
Mm-hmm.
So I meant to say this earlier in the episode, but we really appreciate
Also the justice system. It would be good if he could maybe sue the county or something. I mean, especially if one of the quote unquote witnesses did take a bribe or
Yeah.
whatever that would be
I think he could
called.
sue the police department.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I don't know, though, because some of these entities have, like,
Even though that doesn't really help
immunities or-
society.
well,
I mean, it'd be good if he could sue the individuals.
well, the good thing is that, you know, with BLM and everything, I mean, there's a lot of stuff being highlighted and reforms and kind of overhauls, and that should be weeded out. I mean, don't think we don't know how to weed them out. I was
Good
crying.
reference.
Thank you, Patrick Starr.
From the
Yeah.
SpongeBob movie.
Yeah.
One of the SpongeBob movies.
Anyway, so please leave us some thoughts. We
The
like
one
your...
with David Hasselhoff.
Okay. Please engage. Tell us what you think. If you have any topics you would like us to cover, and please leave a like and subscribe on YouTube or review on Apple iTunes or any of the other platforms where podcasts can be found.
Yeah.
Leave something.
Tell
That'd
us
be
how
great.
we're doing.
Yeah, but be nice. You know, be soft, be gentle.
Be gentle.
But you can tell us. We'll
It's our
take the
first
feedback.
time.
Oh man, sex references? Jesus.
What are you talking about?
Come on. All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.